What is up, everybody? My name is Aaron, and in today's video, I'm gonna be giving you guys a club fitters review and overall thoughts of Cobra's newest driver line, Dark Speed Adapt. Also, at the end of this video, I'm gonna be going over where I think this driver line fits in with other drivers on the market right now. This is a pretty polarizing club from what I've seen, so I figured as somebody that's gonna work with this driver almost every day for the next year or so, I'd give you my 2 cents as to whether I think it's good, whether I think it's an improvement, and where I think it can go in the future. Before we get into it, make sure you guys are hitting that like and subscribe button down below, and with that being said, let's get right into it. So the big talking point with this driver is that it's the most adjustable driver ever, and it does have more adjustability than we've ever seen in a driver before, with a neck sleeve that has 33 different settings. So as far as my opinion on the new neck, I'm torn. As a fitter, I really like it because there are times where I wish I could go, a half step lower or a half step higher, and with this new neck, I have every possibility that I could ever want to tinker around and play with the club. This is actually a really good idea by Cobra to have all these settings because now there's no excuse for us as fitters to not be able to fit somebody into a setup with one of their drivers that works great for them. On the other hand, I think that once a player gets this in their hand, or if they're buying it off the rack, which I wouldn't recommend with this one, they might get a little gear happy and they might start tinkering and changing things after 1 or 2 bad drives, which I don't think is a good idea. Now, Cobra thought of that and they have introduced an app. It's called Future Fit 33. All you do is you plug in, your driver characteristics. So for me, my miss is low and left. So based on that, it takes that into account in this app and it basically spits out a neck setting for me that's gonna work best. So for me, I'm gonna have all of my driver settings in B3. So I do like the idea of the app that Cobra had, but I do think there are some flaws with the app itself. So the main flaw for me is that it only asks one question. It asks what your driver characteristics are. So low left, low right, high left, high right. But it doesn't ask, do you struggle with spin? Do you have a two-way miss? Do some drivers go low left and then some go high right? It really should ask more than one question, in my opinion. The only other flaw I really have with the app is that it seems like it just kind of spits out the opposite of whatever you put into it. For example, I put that I was maximum low left, and all it did was kind of spit up maximum high right setting. I'm sure there's a lot of technology going on behind the scenes that I don't know about, but for me, it just seems kind of like there's a lack of development and a lack of technology when it's telling you what to do with your driver. So there's 4 different driver heads in this driver lineup. We have the DS Adapt Max K, we have the DS Adapt X, we have the DS Adapt LS, and then we have the DS Adapt Max D. So starting off, we have the DS Adapt Max K, which is the 10K variation of this driver. This head is gonna have the maximum amount of forgiveness, and it's also gonna have the biggest head footprint of any of these drivers. So you'll see this in a few minutes after I hit, but it was surprisingly low spinning, and it felt really good for a maximum forgiveness driver. And for me, it was also the easiest to hit. Then we have the DS Adapt X, which is just gonna be the standard model. This head's gonna blend distance and forgiveness really well. It's not gonna be the shortest, it's not gonna be the longest, it's not gonna be the most or least forgiving, but it's gonna do a really good job in that middle ground. Then we have the DS Adapt LS, low spinning version. So it's gonna be the lowest spin, lowest amount of forgiveness, but in theory, it should have the highest club and highest ball speeds. Because of that less forgiveness, usually these are gonna be played by your better player. The Max D is the only one that we don't have in-house with us, but that's gonna be a draw biased head that's really made to combat slices. It's gonna be a lighter weight, and it's gonna have more weight in the heel to really cut down on that cut spin. Now I'm just gonna hit a few shots with each club, give you my overall thoughts, overall feedback, and we're gonna start off with the DS Adapt Max K, which is the most forgiving 10K MOI version. So that was the first one that I feel like I really middled. All the numbers are where I want to see them. Ball speed, mid 170s, carry 303, total 327. But what I'm really impressed about with this driver is how good it looks behind the ball, how confidence inspiring it is, how good it sounds, because Cobra drivers in the past have been known to not sound great, and how good it feels. It's also lower spinning than I would expect for a 10K driver, so if you compare that low spin with the confidence inspiring looks behind the ball, you have yourself a really good driver for most players. So last one with the 10K here, we're really gonna try and go after this one and see what kind of numbers we can get. So with that swing there, the 10K really proved itself to me, because the only thing that I worried about a little bit with the more forgiving head is that it was gonna spin up too much if I really went after one. So that was the highest club speed we've had by a good bit in the 10K testing, and the spin only went up to 2,700. So, you know, it really didn't spin up near as much as I thought it was going to. So really, I'm just overall impressed by this, the 10K offering from Cobra this year. Moving on to the DS Adapt X. This is gonna be the standard model. It's gonna be a good blend of that distance and forgiveness that we're all after. So there's good and there's bad with this driver head. This would be the good, you know, 1 foot offline, 307 carry, 328 total. But the bad for me is in the shot that I'm gonna show you now. All right, this is the one I get concerned about. You know, it had a higher smash factor, so it was hit just as well, if not better. The club speed dropped a little bit, but that spin jumped up a ton, jumped up to 3,500, which caused it to kind of balloon a little bit and spin up in the air. And it was only 277 carry and 285 total. So there's good and there's bad. I may have caught that one a little bit low on the face, causing it to spin a little bit more, but that smash factor was still higher than the last one, and the last one went 324. So I do believe there are definitely benefits to this driver over the 10K and over the LS, but overall, I'd still probably pick the 10K over the Core X version. So we also have the Max D head that we don't have in-house with us today, but now we're finally gonna be testing the LS version. So this is what the LS head is capable of. I think 2,300 spin is the lowest we've seen so far, but you know, it's really gonna be more for a ball striker than it is the general public. The head is only 430 cc's instead of 460 cc's, which is what I'm talking about when I say a smaller squashed head behind the ball. So we're gonna really get after a couple here and really see if we can hit 180 ball speed, let's say. Let's say that'll be our goal for today. All right, so we got to 180 ball speed. We actually got to 181 with 315 carry, 343 total, and the spin, guys. So that's what the LS is really for. It's for the better ball striker with higher club speed that wants to spin the ball less. So that only spun at 1,800, which, you know, for me, I do have a higher club head speed, so I can get away with it. But for most players, this driver is not going to be as forgiving or as spinny enough as they probably need. Side note, we did have a little bit of fun after the LS filming just to see what we could get out of it, and we did get 334 carry with 355 total, 183 ball speed, but only 2 in play. So overall thoughts on the Cobra Adapt line, starting with the LS. So this head is pretty as advertised. It's gonna be the lowest spinning. It's gonna have the most potential for distance out of any of the 3 heads, but it's gonna be the least forgiving by a wide margin. Like we talked about during testing, it is gonna have a more squashed head. It's only gonna be 430 cc's versus the 460 cc's, and it's gonna be for your better ball strikers and better players overall. Moving on to the Cobra Adapt X. Once again, it's kinda exactly what I expected from pre-testing. This head is still gonna have a big enough footprint to inspire a little bit of confidence for players that need it, but it's not gonna be the lowest spinning, it's not gonna be the highest spinning, it's not gonna be the most forgiving, it's not gonna be the least forgiving, kinda like we expected. Last, but certainly not least, and actually this is gonna be my overall pick for all of the heads out of this driver line, is gonna be the Cobra Adapt Max K, which is the 10K driver head. So overall, I was really impressed by this thing. It has a huge footprint, so behind the ball, it's gonna be really confidence inspiring for your higher handicappers that need a little bit of help finding the middle of the face, but it's also low enough spinning that your better players can get away with it. I really didn't expect it to be low spinning enough to where your higher club head speed guys can play it, but it proved me wrong. In the testing, we saw that. So overall, I really do like this line from Cobra. I really think they have a lot to build on, especially with that app. As I said, I don't think it's perfect, but I think it's a really good starting point for them. And I think if they do it right, they can build a really nice driver line for a few years after this based on these. That's all I got for you. So overall, we had the Cobra Adapt Max K. That's gonna be my overall winner out of all of these heads, but they all have redeeming qualities about them. Let me know which one of these drivers you would consider putting in your bag. Also, make sure we're hitting that like and subscribe button down below. It helps me out a ton. And until next time, peace out.